actually writing lines. It's basically like text telling the computer what to do. But the GUI will have to do with clicking on buttons, and that's how you provide different commands to the computer. Okay, so so when we think of that now, when an example I can give you is, let's say for example you want to open a calculator, right? So if you are on your Windows computer, for example, what you're going to do is that you're going to start the calculator on Windows GUI, right? So you're going to start the calculator on Windows GUI by just going on your whatever settings you have the maybe the icon of the calculator, and then you're going to click there. So how do you get there? To start the Windows calculator on the Windows GUI, what you're going to do, you're going to choose, go to your Windows computer, you click on Start, and then Programs, and then Windows Accessories, and then Calculator. So you will find your calculator. So in the calculator, you can click a button to insert a certain expression. So when you do that, similarly, a small keyboard is displayed when certain program require you to enter maybe a password, right? So if you want to type a password, you have kind of like a small keyboard where you can actually type. So that calculator will be there. You'll press on numbers, add them, or do whatever you want to do. So this method is very user friendly because you are using the GUI, right? But when if you have to use Linux, for example, command lines interfaces. So in this case now, you're going to enter a command like the BC command to start the calculator, and then you enter the numbers that you want to type, and then you press enter. So that's how the command line will work. So the GUI and the CLI will do the same thing, but in different ways. And we said the GUI will need someone, anyone can do it. It's user friendly, but the CLI will need someone with experience, someone who understands exactly what they are doing. All right, so that is very, very important. So why do we use CLI? So why do we use CLI? Because of its higher efficiency. What does it mean? In Linux, on Linux operating system, it is faster to perform operations on keyboards than using a mouse. That's one of the things with Linux. So a GUI based operation cannot be repeated, right? While a CLI script can be used to complete all required tasks, for example, deleting, outdating log files. So you can basically write those lines of instructions and repeat them. While in a GUI, you have to keep on going, look for that button, look for that option and everything. So it becomes a bit, depending on what you are doing, sometimes it becomes a bit, it wastes a bit of time, right? So running a GUI require a large amount of data resources. Okay, with CLI, data, system resources can release and be allocated to other operations. So in terms of how the computer is being used in the system as a system resources. So a command line interface, the CLI, will allow the users to actually interact directly with the operating system by just typing command, which will offer you some kind of speed control over everything, every operation that's happening there, right? So the main reason why we choose Linux CLIs, it's just for a faster performance, right? So it's easy, it's faster to write those command lines instead of using the mouse and looking for buttons. So You have tasks like file management, system updates, network configuration that can be executed just by one single line. Instead of you looking for a certain menu, find those functions, but you can just do that by a single line with command line. Okay, so it's very easy. So especially when you think of automation, so a script can just run in a um, repetitive or maybe you have certain complex tasks that you want to always do. For example, deleting, outdating files automatically, to save time. Instead of you going there and doing it every time, you can just have a line that you write and it's doing it for you um, in a repetitive way. Okay, so you have a lower overhead compared to GUI. So a GUI will consume more system resources. All right, in terms of your CPU, the memory, the graphics. Because remember now, your GUI is using the graphical interface as well because of all the displays and everything. So your CPU, your memory, your graphics are being used by the GUI, which will consume some system resources. But when you're using the CLI, that will require really minimal resources, right? Which will allow the system to really allocate more performance to other critical tasks or applications that you are running, okay? So that's why this will make the CLIs useful for servers and low resources environment, okay? So, but again, sometimes it can only be a choice. Maybe for some people who have experience in using CLI and they can use the GUI, but they can prefer to just use the GUI, or they can prefer to use the CLI. That can also be one reason why um, can also use CLI. Okay, so there's a few Linux CLI shortcuts which can help. For example, you have the tab completion. So basically, you can use the tab key to complete a certain command or file name while time saving and accurate. So what does that mean? So we have the tab completion, so which will automatically complete a command or a file name. So example, if you are typing CD, maybe CD doc, right? And then you click on your keyboard, you click on tab, right? I'm sure you know the tab button, okay? When you click on tab, that will complete to CD document if it exists, right? So remember yesterday I told you when we write CD, let me just make it bigger. Yeah, remember yesterday what I said, when we write CD, it means we want to access a certain folder. So if maybe we type CD doc, and then you press on your keyboard on the buttons that say tab. So on a Windows, on a normal computer, you're going to have a button on your left side that say tab. But on some computers, like MacBooks and that, you're just going to have an arrow with a bar like this, like a vertical bar. So that is the tab button. So if you press that, that will complete to CD document. So it goes into folder document. All right. So this automatically completes a command or a file name. So you did not write the full name document, but you just write doc. If there's a file which starts with doc and that file exists, that folder exists, it's going to open that. So when uh, so that's why the tab key can be used to complete the command or file name. Okay, so instead of you writing the full name, you can just press on tab, and then tab will complete the full name if it exists. And then you have the, so when a command is entered, you press, if you double tab, if you press 2 times, if you press twice on tab, right? So if there's no command that is entered, just press, if pressing tab twice will list all available commands. So that can happen in case where you forget what's the actual command for a certain action. You can just leave it empty and then double tap on tab, and then it's going to show you all the commands. Okay, so the tab completion will really help ensure the accuracy and save time to avoid typing full names. So you need to do that. So these are certain cursor control here. For example, you have the app arrow. So when you press the app arrow, this will help scroll through previous command in history, for example. So if you press the app arrow several times, it's going to display all the historical commands for quick execution. So this actually show your previous command that you used. So let's say you keep using a certain command, but now every time you don't want to reuse it again, you just press on the upper arrow many times, then it's going to show you all the previous commands in history that you have. So when and if you click on the down arrow together with the upper arrow, this will also help you from choosing historical command. But now if you press just the down arrow, that will like help you scroll forward through command history as well. So, and then you have your home. If you press on the button home, if you press on the button home, that will move the cursor to the beginning of the command line. All right. If you press Control A, that will move the cursor to the start of the line, same as home, right? And then if you press Control E, that will move the cursor to the end of the line, and then Control L, that will just clear the terminal screen, clear the command itself. Okay. So there's a quick tip is that you can combine shortcuts for faster work, you know. So for example, you use the up arrow to recall a command, and then you use Control A to go to the starts, make edit, and then you enter to rerun it, you know. So the more you use this command, you get used to them and you keep remembering them, and everything become easy, right? So that's what's the advantage between using a CLI and a GUI, because the GUI you always have to scroll, go to a certain button, go to the menu, so it takes more time. While with this command line, you just write one line, press enter, press this button, and then it's just moving. You're just moving faster. All right. So, all right. So these are some Linux. If you want to log into Linux, so you can log into Linux in either of the following ways. So you have the local login and the remote login. So with your local login, you are basically that means that you are physically present at the Linux machine. So whatever machine that is using Linux a day, you have that machine with you. So you can log in directly through the system console or the graphical interface. That's how you can log in. So for system, so when you log in through the system console, so you have to put maybe the login and the password. So you log in directly through the system console or your graphic interface. So for system with a GUI, you will see a login screen, right? Where you will enter your username and password. For system without a GUI, which means you are in CLI mode, you will see text-based login prompt, such as this OpenELA login, where you're going to put your login, which is the roots in this case, and then the password. And for security purpose, the password will always be hidden. Even when you're typing it, you're just gonna see the stars. So it's not gonna show you exactly what is the password. So once you log in, you will gain access to the shell where you're going to be executing all your code. So for example, here, I've already accessed the shell. So this just showed me the system. And then at the bottom here, I have the shell. So this is where I can put a command. For example, I can access a certain folder on my computer by saying cd, and then I put the path to that folder. Now I enter that folder. I can put maybe ls, then I write ls will give me the list of all the folders in that folder, all the files, including the files. So I can open a file, I can delete it, I can edit it, I can do anything using just the command line. Okay, so that's the first method to log into your Linux, and then the second method will be a remote login. So a remote login will just allow you to access a Linux system from another computer over the internet. So you are not present on the system where you are. So this works better. It's commonly used by like system administrators, developers, cloud users. So maybe you have a server somewhere in Johannesburg, but you are currently in Cape Town, but you need to work on that system so you can remotely log into the system. So to connect to the Linux server from a distance or remotely, you can use login clients such as Party and Eggshell. So Party, Eggshell, you also have OpenSSH, right? So you have OpenSSH are just SSH command in Linux or Mac terminals. Especially, when you are using a Mac terminal, you need OpenSSH, so you can actually access that. All right. So you will really come across these scenarios. Let's say you're designing maybe a web application, a certain website with certain functionalities, so a web application, and then you want to deploy the web application. Now, for those in the class now that have done that before, when you subscribe with an hosting company that will keep that web application, some of them will give you a system which has a GUI where everything you want to do, when you upload your code and everything, you are following that GUI. You click on this button, this is how you're going to access it. This is how you load the files. The files are in this folder. Can anybody tell me one of the system which is present with many hosting companies that provide to you that graphical user interface to deal with your if you create a web app or anything like a website or anything like that, to deal with it based on buttons and menus and like the GUI. Can anybody tell me one of the softwares that is used by many hosting companies? I'm sure there's at least one person who knows that, guys. Anyone? Anyone? Is there anyone who knows it? Maybe if my question is confusing, is there anyone in the class who has ever deployed a website or a web app? Anyone with that experience? Is there anyone? So there's no one who has ever created a website or deploy a website on any hosting company.
Oh, so yeah, I did, but it was my first time deploying a web application.
Yes. What did
Uh,
you use? Yes.
I used Infinity Free.
Yeah. When you
Yeah,
log in, yeah, when you log in, there's one application that you use on that hosting company which help you with all the user interface. You click here. This is how you open your folders. Maybe your public HTML. That's where you place your folders.
uh, if I remember, I think the Infinity Free that I used, it has a GUI based like a control panel. I don't know if it is called Vista panel, something like that.
Yes. You see, so you also have like the cPanel. Most hosting companies, they are using cPanel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it has. Yeah, it has features like wherein like I can click on file manager. I can also check
Perfect.
my SQL database. Yeah, my email account and all those
Yes.
SSL certificates. Yes.
Yes. So let me see if I can share this. Let's see if I can share. So you basically have kind of a panel which give you access to if you want to do any edits on that website or um, web application, all you have to do, you just log in. You have a GUI that gives you access to everything that you want to do. Okay, let me share this tab here. Okay, so we have an example like this. So this is uh, a website that is uploaded on. Okay, so we have this. This is a cPanel provided by the hosting company. So this cPanel help you with finding where are your files and everything. So basically, I can go inside here, inside this folder, and I can actually see my files. All right, so I can see the files of my system. I can access them. I can delete files from here. You understand? So this, because this is done with buttons and everything, I'm just using my mouse for that. So this will be um, what you call this, a system that is using a GUI. But if for other hosting companies, they're not going to give you this platform. So you will need to use command lines where now you're going to have to log into their server. So when you log into their server, then you can be able to access your folders, download those files. But to log into your server now, in this case now, because the server is some company that maybe you found online, so you have to log into the server remotely because you don't have that server. You are not close to the server. So now to access those remotely, that way you will have to actually log in through the SSH, right? So you're gonna have to log in through the SSH. So I am fortunately I'm not too sure. I don't have these details, or else I was going to give you an example of one of the system that I worked on and show you exactly what's going um, to happen there. So you will have to actually create know that website, that server that you want to log in. So that server, you have to use the IP address, right? There is a command line that you will have to use in order for you to access to the IP address of that server. You have a command until you log into the system, then you can have access to the data. So that's basically how you can use these clients such as Pathy and Excel and SSH as well. So a lot of people, when they're using a MacBook, they will tell you they use the SSH. For other people, they will say they use Pathy, but they all give you access to the server. All right. So that's how you can remotely connect. You can also change passwords. The password can be changed as well. You can so for as I said, for security, the passwords is hidden even when you are typing. All right, even when you are typing, your password will be hidden. So after entering the password, you can have access to the system, but you can change the password if you want to. If you want to change the password, you can change it the first time when you log in for security reason, because it gives you a default password. So you can create a password with more characters, right? So to change the password, you need to run the passwd command to change the password, and then it's gonna give you access to the system and give you some prompts that tell you how to actually uh, change this password. All right. All right. So type of Linux users we have based on different based on in Linux, including OpenStack. So every user is uniquely identified by the UID, which is the user ID, which is basically a numeric value assigned by the system, right? So based on different UIDs, that's how we can actually divide the Linux users. So based on the UIDs range, Linux users are divided into there's three categories. So the first one will be the super user. And then we have the system user and then the common user. So the super user will be the UID 0. So this is user 0. That will be the super user. So the role of this user is just to have a full control over the entire system. So if we have an example of a system that is created for the university, we're going to have a super admin, a super user who's going to have access to the whole university, to everything, to all the users, to, you understand? So think about it like there is different levels of things that you can access. But the super user is the user of the system that can access everything. So they have full control over the entire system. So it's the same thing when you have, for example, on your Windows computer, sometimes you're trying to do something, but it doesn't allow you. It's tell you to log in as an administrator. So when you're an administrator on your Windows computer, there is certain files that you can have access or you can delete. Okay, has anyone been in that situation when you're trying maybe to do something on your computer and then it says it asks you to do it as an administrator? Has anyone come across that?
Yes.
Yes,
Usually when
exactly.
you installing programs.
Yes, especially when you're installing programs. So that is how the type of users. So the super user is a user that have a full control over the entire system. The type of permission that they have, they can access or modify any file. They can install or remove softwares. They can create, modify, or delete any other user. Okay, and they can change as well the system configuration or perform different administrative tasks. Okay, so this is, as I said, they are it like they are similar to the administrator on your Windows system, right? So so on some system when you are using, especially when you're using the command line, or like on Windows, when that is a GUI giving you a message to say login as a super user, just click there. But when you are using a command line and typing, you will have to put a certain syntax. For example, in front of your command line, maybe you write SU, which is super user. That means SU, and then you write now maybe whatever you're doing, CD, whatever you're accessing a certain folder. So you are now accessing it as a super user. So writing SU in front of the command line, if you are using command line interface, writing SU means that you are now switching to super user. All right, so the second user will be the system user. So the system user is basically the program user. So the range for super user is the 0. So the range for system user can go from 1 to 999. So the system user is created by the system or installed softwares. You need to know that. So created by the programs, right? By the system or installed softwares. The main purpose of the system user is to the system user is just used to run system services, background processes. Okay, so an example of a system user can be you have what we call the SSHD. So the SSHD, this run when you are using the method that told you to access a server, which is the SSH. So if you are using an SSH service, when you log in as a SSHD, it means you log in as a system user. Okay? Another system user I can give you is the MySQL. I'm sure many of you have heard about MySQL. MySQL is a system user that runs the MySQL database services, right? Another system user can be the NGINX. NGINX, this is especially when you're creating a web app. This will help you run the web server services. Okay, so that work when you have a web application, you have to install this. You have to run as that. So this is a system user. So these accounts usually cannot log like in, how can I say it? They cannot log in interactively, right? And they are just for security isolation. So they have kind of a minimal privilege compared to the system, to the super user. All right. And then the last one will be the common user. So the common user has a range that can go from 1,000 to 60,000. So this is created by the super user. All right. It's created by the super user or the super administrator. All right. Um, the common user is used by regular users to just log in and perform everyday operation. So the super user is going to create this common user by using certain commands such as user add or add user. So they have this common user, they have a limited to the system and cannot modify system files for different configuration without elevating the privilege. That's why, you know, sometimes I'm trying to install something on the computer using command line, and then it cannot allow you. You know, sometimes when you are coding, you're creating an app, you want to have a certain functionality on the app, and then on your research, you realize you have to install a certain package for that app to work. But you're trying to install, it does not install. It's giving you an error. So the first thing that you need to do, you need to upgrade that common user to another user. So if you want to modify the file, or you need to give it a privilege, for example, you will have to install, maybe you have to say sudo then install whatever you are installing. So by putting this sudo, it means you are upgrading, you are elevating the privilege of this user. Or another way, if you don't want to elevate the privilege of this user, you need to create a user. You need to add a new user with a high privilege. All right. All right. So so understand that the main user will be the super user, which is the root user, which have a full control, and then you have your system user, for just background services, and then you have your common users that for human users with restricted rights. All right. So in Linux, of course, you can create or delete a user. All right. So if you want to create the user, we use the user add and then the username. So if you want to create the user call, maybe Lira, you have user add Lira. So this will be a new user where we're going to so this is the ID of the person that you've created. And then if you want to switch from one user to another one, you just use SU, or if you use user deal to delete the user. All right. And then you have all the commands running there. Okay. So we have basic operation, basic open command, where we're going to have power supply command, which will help you to shut down or reboot the system. Okay, so to shut down the system, so you have, for example, the command H, which will power off the computer after it shut down. So you have all this, and then you have system to reboot. You have commands to reboot the system, and then you can access the file using part of the file. Okay, so you need to understand the rest will be good. So let me maybe check if on my side here. So I think there will be enough time for me. No, I'll show you next time. I don't think there will be enough time for me to show you. But I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna give you an example of this. So now remember this. So every time you're gonna open your terminal or command line. Let me just try maybe my computer's terminal. I just forgot how it's called on Windows computers. Guys, what is the terminal of the Windows computer again? That should be the
CMD.
CMD, yes, CMD. All right, so let me see if it's going to allow me to share this window here. So terminal, yes. So this is the terminal on my computer right now. Let me see. It's okay. It's showing certain operation. Let me see. Ooh. Why is it? Oh, here we go. Oh, all right. Here we go. So when I'm here, for example, on my side here, it's start here. So this actually it's inside a certain folder actually, because in this it's because I have a what you call this, a phone, an app that I created which is installed on the phone. I was actually monitoring the behavior of the app to see where are the errors in the app. But when you write your command, you will see like it's logging, like here on the Mac, it give me this the base. So I am this. So this will show the computer, and then this will show the folder in which I am at the moment, and then I can write any command there. So I don't know why this is not working. I'm trying to exit that. Yes. Terminal. All right, so this is exactly what happened here. For example, here, it's just that I am here in this case here, you are logged in. Can you still see my screen? Okay, let me just close this. Maybe it's for maybe it's for security purpose that it doesn't show the details of can you guys still hear me? Not sure this thing is frozen.
How can hear you, but I think his presentation is frozen.
Sorry?
Can hear you, but the screen was frozen.
Oh, okay. All right, so this is how it works. So in this case here, we have the path, which is the root here. So in this case, we are in the case that I show you in mine, there was a name there, my computer, uh, the user, and then there was a folder in which I am. So this is how the path works. So in this case, the path starting from the root directory. For example, we have the root and then desktop. So in this case, we're going to be dealing with files inside desktop, which is the relative path. All right. So when you have this, so this will indicate the current path when we have the dots and the forward slash there. And then we have, when you have two dot and a forward slash or just two dot, that will indicate the upper level directory, which means if you are inside a folder and then again inside that folder, so to indicate the previous one. Okay. So if we type a certain command such as this one, the pwd, that will show the current path. Okay, so CD is a switching path. So CD is just to switch, to move from one folder to another folder. That's how I can access a certain path. So in this case, for example, here I have CD dot desktop. It means I must go to desktop directory using the relative path. All right, so that's how that will work. And then we have certain command for viewing the files. We have command for creating directories. All right, so we have command for copying the files. So this is exactly what you do in CLI. You don't click on buttons and everything, but you need to know all these commands. So once you log into your root, you're just writing this command and you are operating with the system. You have command of moving and renaming files, deleting files. You have, for example, your RM. So if I go on my computer right now, in my terminals, I log into a certain folder, and then I click RM, and then I write that folder, it's going to delete that file. You understand? So, and then we have different text editors. So you can have a text editor such as Vim. So Vim is just a text editor. So when you're using, let's say, using a MacBook, certain text editor do not work. For example, you have your Notepad. On Windows, a lot of people use Notepad Plus. So that way you're going to maybe be writing your code. So so Vim is just a customable text editor. So Vim is just a powerful and really customizable text editor, which was derived from the original V, which is visual editor. All right. So it has more features. It's flexible. You can add some plugins for different operation that you can do while you're coding. So it's one of the most used editor for programming and system administration in Linux. Right. But when you go to others like Windows and Mac, you will find you have certain editors, such as your I personally use what you call VS Code, right? And then you will find people using, especially those building Android apps, they use Android Studio. You understand? So you have all these different editors that you can use. So when you have your Vim, there's a lot of features that Vim can have, right? You have, for example, the normal mode, insert modes, which is used for editing and modifying text. You have the command line, which is used to save, exit, search, replace text. So there's many features, but Vim, by the way, Vim is available by default on most Linux systems. So you have syntax highlighting, you have your undo, redo. So if you are writing code, you make a mistake, you can undo it. You have multi-level operation there in terms of editing, right? So you can customize it based on what you want. It works efficiently. It can work on remote servers. So there's no GUI needed. All right. So one of the editors that you're gonna use if you wanna work with Linux, you can use Vim as your editor. All right, guys. So that will be all for this session. And I'm going to see you in the next session in 15 minutes for HCIP AI. See you in 15 minutes. And please remember to use the second link for the second session. All right, see you soon.